Um, this video is going to be a little short because, Cindy, you're on the way home already. So I started it late. I just wanted to finish what I was talking about yesterday. That my older sister had a beautiful voice, and that she went and sang a couple of times. There was a theater downtown in Laredo, Texas, where every Friday they would have amateur hour, and people would go try out, and if they could sing, they were allowed to sing the following week. So my dad and mom decided that since I love singing in the church, across the Baptist church and everything, they decided that they were going to ask my older sister to teach me how to sing, and they picked songs that were appropriate for me to sing. And my sister would teach me how to sing the song, the words and everything, but I would turn on the radio and then listen to them there so that I could follow along with the music before I would try out. And then I went and tried out. They said I was very tiny. Actually, I was tiny for my age. They thought I was tinier than I actually was. Well, I was in the third grade, so I was still a little girl. So they let me sing. Well, the first Friday that I sang, people would applaud, and they wouldn't stop. So I won. And the next Friday, I won. And then one day they told my dad that they were having problems getting other people to audition and whatever because of me. And so they had decided that every 6 weeks, they wanted me to take 6 weeks off. I would sing for 6 weeks, and then for 6 weeks I couldn't go in. For 6 weeks, and I never lost once. Never. I have this thing that when I really like something, I just do it and put my whole heart into it and win. So I never thought it was. I mean, I never thought, oh, I'm so great. I'm so everything. When you're little, you don't realize you're doing things. Later, when I was older, I go like, wow, good for me. I was really good. But I remember one day my dad was taking me to the theater, and he was holding my hand, and he was saying, your sister Vera is very sick, and I just don't happen to have money to buy her medicine right now. Must have been in the middle of the week, because like I said, it was during that time when depression, everybody's real poor and everything. And even though my dad made good money, for some reason he didn't have any right then and there. So he told me, sing like you've never sung before, because we need medicine for Vera. Try the very, very best you can. And so I looked at him and I thought, okay, I will. So then the remainder of our walk to the theater, I remember thinking, I'm going to walk the stage the way I saw this singers do. Pedro Armendariz, Luis Aguilar, of those Spanish, because we listen to a lot of Spanish music, and most of the music that I sang was Spanish, in Spanish, because Laredo, Texas is mostly Spanish, and the people going to those theaters were mostly Spaniards, or they spoke Spanish. So I thought, going to the theater, okay, I'll try the very best. I'm going to do those things, the mannerisms, the walking on stage, and sing like I've never, my head gestures, like I was going to mimic those movie stars. And I did. And the audience went berserk. They were standing, jumping, screaming, all this stuff. And I'll go like, oh, it worked. That was really good. So going home, my dad was laughing, and he just kept laughing, and he goes like, what happened? When did you? And I said, well, I got that idea after you told me I had to win, I mean, I couldn't just take a chance that my voice would carry me, I had to do something different. So I decided to walk the stage and make the hand mannerisms and head and everything, and hold the microphone the way they do and all that. So my dad was really happy. We went, stopped at the pharmacy. We bought the medicine. We got home. My mother opened the door. She was very worried. She opened the door and looked at my dad and me. And my dad goes like this and gives her the medicine. And then she had this big smile on her face that I'd done it. So I continued doing that for on and off, when they would let me sing. And then I went to Mexico, actually, across the border to a radio station to sing there. They wanted me to sing there. And what else happened around that time? They were auditioning for, there was a movie that was made in Laredo, Texas around that time when I was around the third grade or fourth grade. I auditioned and I got the part. It was just about a bunch of gang of little kids with those funny little hats and all those little things hanging from your little hat. They had little, I don't know, they're just really cute, and they were in at the time. We were wearing blue jeans, tennis shoes, little shirts in the movie. And I got the part that would say somebody got kidnapped. And I had to run in front of all the kids and say, hey, everybody, blah, blah. She's been kidnapped, and all that. So I got that part. It's just a small part. And then we were all running around, and that was the whole movie about little kids. So that's about the only movie and I never saw the movie, actually, would you believe it? And I've tried to pull it up now, but I'm just having a hard time finding it. Because when I went to school, after they showed the movie in Laredo, Texas, I went to school. I remember going to school, and a lot of the kids going like, we saw you in a movie. I was a celebrity in school. We saw you in a movie and all that stuff. And I go, I didn't see it. I didn't go see the movie. What else did I do that was artistic? I was in a lot of little stuff at school. I went to tap dancing school and ballet. My parents were poor, but they always tried to do the best for us. We had a piano. My older sister played the piano. Let's see, did I do anything else aside from that and the singing? Not that I can remember around that time. Also around that time in that house, Olga and Vera were born. Olga and Gloria. Gloria first, and then Olga. They were all three of my little sisters, and my older sister are very, very pretty looking. They had different features than me. I'm more like, I look like my mom. Gloria looks like my dad. She had really fine features. And when Gloria was little, I've never seen a more beautiful girl. She looked like an angel. She had long, brown, soft hair, curly eyelashes, dreamy eyes, and she was my little sister, and I would look at her and pick her up, and I couldn't believe she was my little sister. And then Olga was born too while we lived in that house. And Olga was so beautiful. My mother gave her middle name. She was that beautiful. Olga Beatrice, like my mom. And so I was so proud of her. They would put on these really pretty little dresses on her, and I would take her outside, and the fence had like a flat concrete thing, and the entrance. And I would have her sit there facing the street just because I wanted everybody to see her. And in that house, what happened in that house? Across the street from us, lived the owner of all the apartment buildings that would go around the block like that. And they had a son. His name was Richard. And a younger son. I can't remember his name. Richard was my brother. Became my brother-in-law. My sister was like, let's say I was 13. So then I was, 6. When we moved to that house, I was 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And she was 13. And he was like around 15. He was a little older than her. And he fell in love with her, my older sister. She was so sweet. She is so beautiful. Well, she's 87 now, but her features, I'm sure they don't change. Who does she resemble? I'll think of her name in a little bit. her face. Um, and he loved her, and we went to the movies, and he and his brother would follow us, and I loved it because coming back was nighttime, and I was afraid. We had to walk like 10 blocks, and there were no sidewalks. And back then, all the dogs were loose. It's not like we have rules now, and you can't leave your dog out there, just to do whatever and all that, which they used to do back then. So I was kind of scared going home with just my sister, and I was so happy that every time we went to the movies, he must have been sitting there ready to leave the house to follow us to the theater. And then as they got older, like my sister was a junior in high school or whatever, uh, as they got old, no, she was a sophomore in high school. They were a little older, so then by that time they were sitting next to each other. No, not next to each other. I sat in the middle. My older sister, me and my brother-in-law, my sister, me and my brother-in-law, Richard, and they would buy me popcorn, candy, pop. Oh my goodness, to keep me occupied. I could care less what they were talking about or anything like that. I was eating and watching the movie and everything. So that happened in that house too, in St. Augustine. Also happened during summer. I didn't see my little best friend who lived down the same street, but maybe 5 or 6 blocks that way. But I would go pick her up and then would walk back towards my house and to school, because, I don't know, we got used to doing that, and I liked walking. So when school started, I was starting third grade, I think. Almost ran over to her house. I was so excited, knocked on the door and all that, and her mom came to the door and told me that my little friend had passed away. She had leukemia. She had passed away. I don't know how I got to school, or I was so sad, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for quite a long time. I was really, really sad. And I think about her often because she was my little friend. Then what else happened across the street? Oh, coming home from school, there was this fat little girl that liked to pick on me. And like I said, I was always tiny. I didn't know that my sisters called me the tiny one until recently. Can you imagine? Between them, I mean, they never said it to me. I was very tiny. So this girl, little girl, was fat and big, and she would block me. She would stand in that corner, and I was going down the sidewalk, so I couldn't cross the street to go to my house, which was across the street. I had to back up. And the reason I backed up is because the sidewalk was like 4 or 5 feet steep before you hit the street, which was all rocks and everything. There's no concrete or anything like that. So it was a really high concrete, and then the sidewalk way up there where the apartments were. And I had to go all the way back, across the street, go all the way like this. Well, she stood there laughing at me, right? So I told my dad that, or my dad was outside one day, and he said, "Why are you coming that way when you can why did you go to," he was just a little puzzled. So I told him, and he said, "Well, okay, so I know she's bigger than you, and pretty fat little girl, maybe twice as big as me if you want to know something." And he said, "But is that how you want to live life?" And I go like, "No." And he said, "Okay then, you have to fight back. Next time you go down that sidewalk, you keep going. Don't stop. Start running towards her. And then you push her off the sidewalk." And of course, she's kind of falling. He said, "Who cares?" This is serious. You have to do that. And I did. I was brave. I ran towards her. She goes like this because I'd never done that before. And I pushed her. She fell. But the following day, she wasn't there. She was never around. And Cindy, you're home. So I have to say goodbye. I will continue with my stories tomorrow.